I know Imamov and Khamzat kind of don't want to fight each other. I'm not really excited for that fight. Not a lot of people are, but the Strickland fight, I believe I face Strickland. In the striking, he definitely beats Khamzat for sure. Khamzat, a problem to deal with when he has you on your back. We've seen that many times. With Strickland, what he does brilliantly, I took Strickland down, I think 7 times. The way he gets up to hold him down is incredibly hard. At Extreme Couture, where they train, they specialize in that cage wrestling and getting back to his feet. And Strickland's a lot stronger than people might think. I think he has a very good chance in that fight.
Do you think we'll need extra security for Chimaev versus Strickland? Absolutely. I got to be honest. I don't know if I trust those two enough to put them together before the fight. Because I think they might start fighting. They seem to hate each other and despise each other. And those things are what fights are built on. Those are the things that fights are built on, is bad blood, heat, a true dislike for someone. Sean don't necessarily like anybody, which makes him as fun as anyone to watch. But Khamzat just wants to smash people. Smash. Beat them up, take them down, overwhelm them to the point that they can't do anything.
The main event is the fight that people have been waiting for a long time. Strickland looked incredible in his last performance, and, how much security do you think we're going to need from Chimaev?
Quite a lot, Danny. You need to hire some extra people because Sean Strickland, as we know, the man's a maniac.
Sean Strickland throws a lot of shots at Khamzat, as does Khamzat. I would imagine Khamzat a lot more motivated going into this fight, considering the things that Sean has said about him and their history. And Dana White joked about the fact that they might need a little more security, and I don't think that's the worst idea in the world. I'm not upset that Sean is getting this shot. He does have a win over Imamov, and it was a short notice win for him, and he was moving up to 205. Did that come into play? I don't know. Ultimately, if we're being 100% honest, I think what came into play is that this is a bigger fight, and it sells more, and a hell of a lot more people.
I thought Chimaev lost that fight.
What?
He won the first round. Look at the tape. He won the first round, lost the second and third, didn't get more takedowns. Got stuffed up and got punched in the face more. So I definitely thought Usman won. That's a 170-pounder that's coming off the couch. Literally, he's not training. He's not living that life. Now I know he went up to 185 and did some big things, but I don't think he beats Strickland. I don't think so.
What? That is a wild take.
I'll bet.
Yo, that's a wild take.
I'm dumping the house on Strickland on that one.
That's a wild take.
I'm gonna put
really?
like 100 bands, and I don't even think Chimaev fights him because they've trained a lot.
This is a wild take.
You'll see my fucking prize picks. I put up 100 bands of my own money. I'm gonna go whap. That's how confident I am. Strickland beats him.
Dude, that would be huge for his legacy if he beats a guy like Khamzat.
Very deserving, but I guess they are taking into consideration the fact that Sean Strickland has a win over Nasty Namavov. A lot of people were trashing Sean Strickland about his fighting ability before the Anthony Hernandez fight, including Nasty Namavov as well. He was trashing Strickland, saying this guy's complete trash, this guy's garbage. And I even put a tweet out saying, this guy beat you on a week's notice. Strickland has some solid wins, and they're definitely coming into play here. Plus, the fact that these two are probably going to have one of the best pre-fight press conferences in recent UFC history is also definitely coming into play here. I would not be surprised if Paramount has a pair of scissors on the cord to Sean Strickland's microphone at this press conference, because I know for a fact he is going to go absolutely crazy at Khamzat Chimaev. He's been saying so much about him. Terrorist this, terrorist that. He's sure, the press conference may be better than the fight.
The chaos erupted before the cameras even stopped rolling. Security guards were scrambled, bodies were flying, and for a moment, the entire UFC headquarters felt like a literal war zone. Khamzat Chimaev and Sean Strickland didn't just exchange words this time. They let their fists do the talking in a way that left officials with no choice but to step in with force. This wasn't a choreographed promo or a staged face-off for the fans. This was raw, unadulterated hatred boiling over into a physical altercation that reportedly led to local authorities being called to the scene. The image of the sport's most dangerous undefeated prospect being ushered away in restraints is something nobody expected to see this early in the fight week buildup.
This is what I have to say is that Strickland is, I've always said this, Strickland is extremely tricky to hit because everyone gets into the sport, is fighting, and then everyone swings at people's heads and try to take off their heads. Strickland had this weird style of just kind of relax here and just kind of throws his hands up to kind of block and leans away to where it's very difficult for people to get to his face to hit him. As you see when he, who was it that actually caught him was Pereira. I think it was coming off of like a fake knee, and it was kind of just a, you know, Pereira has those hooks that you don't really see because his hands are so low, and it just boom, and then a straight right, boom, put him out. You know, it's a very, if you're not in a situation like that, Strickland is very...
The wrestling defense of Strickland is another major factor that analysts like MMA Guru are obsessing over. While many see Chimaev as an unstoppable force on the mats, Strickland has spent years at Extreme Couture, specializing in getting back to his feet and neutralizing heavy top pressure. He isn't the type of fighter to shoot for his own takedowns, but his fundamentals when it comes to stuffing them are among the best in the middleweight division. If he can turn this into a kickboxing match and keep the distance with his signature jab, the aura of invincibility surrounding the Chechen superstar could start to crumble in real time. The stylistic clash is exactly why the hype has reached such a fever pitch.
This was going to happen, and I am, of course, talking about the one and only Khamzat Chimaev taking on, for the middleweight title, Sean Strickland. That is correct. Sean needs no nickname. He gets called lots of names by a lot of people because he's a controversial guy, but I'll tell you what, the way that he beat Alexander Fluffy Hernandez, the way that he put a beat down on him respectfully to Fluffy, the way that he finished him with that knee to the midsection, and then, to be honest, how he handled himself on the microphone, right?
Fluffy's the definition of a man.
He deserves this shot. Of course, he lost the belt to Dricus du Plessis. How's he going to do against Khamzat Chimaev? I don't know about that. Khamzat Chimaev is ridiculous. What is he, 15-0? He's a force of nature. Of course, went to a decision with Dricus du Plessis, controlled him throughout the entirety of the fight. Yes, he was trying to finish it, but...
The verbal warfare has already crossed lines that many fans thought were uncrossable. Strickland's use of the word terrorist and his constant attacks on Chimaev's character have created an environment where a peaceful resolution was never an option. Even the most seasoned analysts are worried that the pre-fight press conference might need a literal cage to keep them apart. One insider joked that the UFC should probably have a pair of scissors ready to cut the cord on Strickland's microphone at any second. There is a very real fear that the things said on that stage will trigger a riot, proving that the entertainment value of this rivalry comes with a very high price tag for everyone involved.
There is a backstory between Chimaev and Sean Strickland. They have trained with one another. There's a bit of shit talk. There's going to be bad blood. We know that the lead up to the fight will be goddamn insane, right? Chimaev doesn't hold back. He talks shit, but in a kind of reserved way, but like, he truly believes in himself. And Sean Strickland is just going to go on the full offensive. We know that. We know that. He's going to be talking some crazy shit. Dana even joked about it on the little show that we did there. He said they're going to need extra security for that fight, during the fight week, leading up to the fight, after the fight, in the fight. It's going to be a mad one because Sean Strickland doesn't hold back. And you know what? Even if you don't like the shit that he says, you have to appreciate the entertainment value that he brings to the table. And then on top of that, the performances inside the octagon. That one against Fluffy, that was a different Sean Strickland, okay? But can he stop the takedowns of Khamzat Chimaev? Because let's be honest,
Chael Sonnen has added his own unique perspective, claiming that fighters in the division are genuinely scared of Chimaev's presence. He says there is a palpable aura of fear that surrounds Khamzat whenever he enters a room, a gravity that most athletes can't handle. However, Strickland seems to be the one man who is completely immune to that intimidation factor. Instead of backing down, Sean leans into the chaos, using his own brand of madness to counter Chimaev's intensity. Sonnen believes this psychological stalemate is what led to the physical altercation outside of the cage. When a bully meets someone who truly doesn't care about the consequences, things are bound to get ugly very quickly.
Takes off of Izzy when Izzy was fucking... Izzy had just beaten Pereira.
Yeah.
So it's not like
5-0, he beat
know.
him, right? 5 rounds.
No, he
Didn't
knocked him out.
No, I'm
man.
saying Strickland, beat him. He just beat him in every round.
5 rounds and almost stopped him, I think, in the first. So I really thought that Izzy was on top of his game. Maybe going into that fight, for whatever reason, he wasn't at his best mind. But physically, he was still in his prime. I know Izzy's had his ups and downs after that. But Sean beat a prime Izzy, man. So we can't ever forget that. And then I know he had a bad fight with the South African dude, the killer,
DDP?
Man.
Yeah.
DDP's another killer, bro. He's phenomenal, you know. And he had a bad showing there. But since then, I mean, I think Sean is 2-0 right now.
He beat Costa,
which was
just
wasn't
won.
the best fight.
The recent 5-round experience Chimaev gained against Dricus du Plessis is being viewed as a massive turning point in his career. Before that, many questioned if he had the gas tank to go the full 25 minutes against an elite opponent who wouldn't fold in the first round. Having survived that war, Chimaev now has the confidence that he can compete at the highest level even when the finish doesn't come early. However, Strickland is a master of the long game. He thrives in those championship rounds where opponents start to fade and the mental fatigue sets in. The question now is whether Khamzat's newfound experience is enough to outlast a man who treats a 5-round fight like a light jog in the park.
He won convincingly. There's no doubt about it. But then when he did the Fluffy, which had a lot of hype behind him.
The fallout from the reported brawl has left the MMA world in a state of shock, with many wondering if the fight will even be allowed to proceed. Being detained after a public altercation is a serious matter that could have massive implications for Chimaev's ability to compete in certain jurisdictions. The UFC legal team is reportedly working around the clock to manage the situation and ensure that their main event remains intact. It's a high-stakes game of damage control, trying to spin a genuine criminal incident into a promotional tool while keeping the athletic commissions from pulling the plug. The thin line between a heated rivalry and a legal disaster has never been more apparent than it is right now.
Like, hey, I'm the top dog here and you're not ready for this. You know, it made him look bad. He couldn't take him down, couldn't do anything.
Yeah.
Despite the chaos, the betting markets are still seeing massive action on both sides of the coin. Some sharps are putting their money on Strickland, believing that his defensive shell and cardio will eventually break the powerhouse prospect. Others are convinced that Chimaev's wrestling is simply on another level, and that he will find a way to smash through Strickland's defense just like he has done to everyone else. The uncertainty is part of the draw, but the added drama of the recent altercation has made the stakes feel much higher than just a championship belt. This has become a battle for dominance and respect in a sport that rewards those who are willing to cross the line.
So you think a guy that beats Khamzat is a guy that has good enough wrestling, but has also, like, you know, crazy striking?
Not
right?
crazy striking, but you have to be able to wrestle back in. You have to be able to get back up to your feet when you get taken down and put the pressure on him.
Okay. Yeah, that's why, you know, I didn't expect you to say that. I didn't expect you to say Strickland will be Khamzat, but I mean,
that's my take.
I gotta like kind of listen. I mean, you're the fighter, so we'll see. I mean, we'll see.
Hey, listen, at the same time, I'm certain about some fights sometimes.
If the fight does go forward, the atmosphere inside the arena is expected to be unlike anything we've seen in years. The fans are split down the middle, with half cheering for the unfiltered American brawler and the other half supporting the dominant international superstar. The energy is going to be electric, but also incredibly tense, as everyone knows that a single spark could reignite the violence that we saw earlier this week. Security inside the building will likely be at an all-time high, with the promotion taking every possible precaution to prevent a repeat of the backstage brawl from occurring inside the octagon before the bell even rings to start the first round.
I can tell you, guys tiptoe around Chimaev. Guys are scared of Chimaev. He has a presence. Sean Strickland said, man, I used to be in the gym with this guy. He's a punk. Ask the people that were there. Sean Strickland said, when I come into a gym, I go find the biggest, baddest dude, and that's who I spar with. When Chimaev comes in the gym, he finds the easiest opponent, takes him in the corner, and beats the hell out of him. He's a bully. He said, people were there. There is one scenario, this is Sean Strickland talking, one scenario where we did a live go, and Chimaev started with my back. So he starts in an ideal position, and Sean says, I let him choke me. He goes, but what's the point? He's already there. It was a ridiculous position. It was ridiculous that we started in that position. I let him have a choke. He said the rest of the time I ran him out of the room, and there was people that saw it. Now, I wasn't there. I'm just telling you.
Kamaru Usman highlighted another interesting point regarding Chimaev's striking. While he is known for his wrestling, he has shown the power to drop world-class fighters like Gilbert Burns with a single shot. If Strickland focuses too much on the takedown defense, he might leave himself open to the heavy hands that Chimaev has been developing in silence. However, Usman warns that if the wrestling is neutralized, Chimaev will be forced to rely on a complete game that hasn't always been tested under championship pressure. It's a chess match played at 100 miles per hour, where the first person to make a mistake isn't just going to lose the fight, they're going to pay for it physically.
Okay? It's hard to pick against Khamzat Chimaev right now. I do think Strickland has the wrestling game to make it a little bit more of a challenge. But man, it's hard to go against Khamzat Chimaev, and he's only going to be getting better as well. Now that he's a world champion, he's had a lot of time to recover, a lot of time to develop his game. 5 rounds with Dricus du Plessis, that's valuable experience. He'd never been 5 rounds. I don't think he'd ever had a 5-round fight booked. Maybe he had on some like weird circumstance, but I don't think he had. And if he did, he finished it in round 1. He'd never been 5 rounds before. That's a very good experience against a great fighter like Dricus du Plessis, who has wins over Sean Strickland. I do think Strickland's wrestling skill is better than Dricus du Plessis in terms of like his fundamentals. Now, du Plessis was the one taking down Sean Strickland in their fight, but Sean Strickland is just not the guy who's going to be shooting takedowns.
The role of the trainers and cornermen in this situation cannot be overstated. With both fighters being so emotionally charged, the coaches are the only ones who can keep them focused on the task at hand. There are reports that the tensions have even spread to the respective camps, with members of both teams having to be separated during recent events. This isn't just a rivalry between two men, it's a clash between two different philosophies of fighting and two very different ways of existing in the world. The pressure on the support staff to keep their fighters calm and composed amid the surrounding madness is immense and could ultimately decide the outcome.
Do what he always does. On the back foot, jab, teep. If eventually the momentum swings, he's going to start bringing that forwards a little bit and start pushing you backwards while jabbing and throwing the right hand now and then and teeping the body and doing what he does. He's mixing in some other things into his game recently with the hooks and the uppercuts, and he's letting his hands go a little bit more as he did against Anthony Hernandez. I am going to lean towards Chimaev right now, though.
The historical context of this fight places it among the most anticipated grudges in the history of the middleweight division. We are talking about a collision that mirrors some of the most famous rivalries in the sport, where personal dislike fueled legendary performances. Whether you love him or hate him, Sean Strickland has managed to do something that very few fighters can. He has gotten inside the head of a man who was previously thought to be an emotionless killing machine. By breaking that mental barrier, he has changed the entire dynamic of the fight before a single punch has been thrown in the official contest. The question remains if he can survive the monster he has awakened.
This is what I have to say is that Strickland is, I've always said this, Strickland is extremely tricky to hit because everyone gets into the sport, is fighting, and then everyone swings at people's heads and try to take off their heads. Strickland had this weird style of just kind of relax here and just kind of throws his hands up to kind of block and leans away to where it's very difficult for people to get to his face to hit him. As you see when he, who was it that actually caught him was Pereira. I think it was coming off of like a fake knee, and it was kind of just a, you know, Pereira has those hooks that you don't really see because his hands are so low, and it just boom, and then a straight right, boom, put him out. You know, it's a very, if you're not in a situation like that, Strickland is very...
It all started with a history of gym sessions that were never supposed to go public. For years, rumors have swirled about what really happens behind the closed doors of Extreme Couture and other elite training facilities when these two monsters share the same mat. Sean Strickland has never been one to keep a secret, and he's finally pulled back the curtain on the bully tactics he claims Khamzat uses to intimidate training partners. According to Strickland, Chimaev doesn't look for the toughest challenges in the room. Instead, he hunts for the easiest targets to smash against the cage just to feed his own ego. These accusations haven't just stung Chimaev's pride. They've ignited a fire that was always destined to result in a massive, violent explosion.
It wasn't the best showing. It was
But he won.
boring,
Yeah.
But he won.
As we get closer to the actual date, the details of the detainment are beginning to emerge with more clarity. It appears that the altercation was sparked by a series of comments made during a chance encounter in a hotel lobby, leading to a physical struggle that required multiple security teams to intervene. While the situation was eventually de-escalated, the damage to the relationship between the two fighters and the promotion was already done. The UFC has had to navigate a PR minefield, trying to balance the excitement of the real-life drama with the responsibilities of being a professional sports organization. It's a delicate dance that they have performed many times before, but never with stakes this high. Dana White himself has been caught joking about the absolute necessity for extra security whenever these two are in the same zip code. The UFC president knows that the bad blood between them isn't just for the cameras. It's a genuine, deep-seated despise that makes them a liability every time they cross paths. Industry insiders are whispering that the promotion had to hire a specialized detail just to keep them separated during the lead-up to their scheduled bout. They seem to hate and despise each other on a level we rarely see in modern mixed martial arts. It's the kind of heat that sells tickets, but it's also the kind of heat that leads to late-night phone calls from law enforcement when things finally spiral out of control. The legendary Michael Bisping has weighed in on the madness, admitting that he doesn't trust these two enough to put them in a room together without a literal wall between them. Bisping points out that while Chimaev wants to smash everyone in his path, Strickland operates with a level of psychological warfare that is designed to make his opponents snap. When you combine Chimaev's relentless grinding pressure with Strickland's unbreakable toughness and lack of a filter, you create a collision of styles that the world of combat sports simply isn't equipped to handle. The former champion noted that the tension is so thick you could cut it with a knife, and the threat of an off-script brawl was always a matter of when, not if. There is one specific scenario from the training room that apparently pushed things over the edge. According to insiders, a live grappling session once started with Chimaev in an ideal position on Strickland's back. Rather than fighting for his life, Sean allegedly just let him have the choke, mocking the entire process because he felt the setup was ridiculous. Strickland later claimed he ran Khamzat out of the room afterward, a statement that has sent the Boers into a state of absolute fury. Being embarrassed in the gym is one thing, but having those stories leaked to the public is a betrayal of the unwritten fighter's code. That breach of trust is exactly what led to the recent physical confrontation that saw tempers flare and fists fly. Jorge Masvidal, a man who knows a thing or two about backstage altercations, has stepped into the conversation to defend Strickland's legitimate grit. He points out that people consistently underestimate Sean's strength and his ability to thrive under the most intense pressure imaginable. Masvidal highlighted the way Strickland dismantled Israel Adesanya, proving that he can handle the biggest stage and the most dangerous strikers on the planet. To Masvidal, the fact that Strickland beat a prime version of the last stylebender says everything you need to know about his toughness. He believes that if anyone can withstand the initial storm of a Chimaev takedown and force a real dogfight, it's the man who has spent his career being the underdog. The business reality behind this matchup is just as volatile as the fighters themselves. Under the current Paramount ownership, the UFC is looking for the biggest, loudest, and most controversial fights to drive their numbers. While some fans argued that Nassourdine Imavov deserved a shot at the title, the truth is that a fight between him and Chimaev simply wouldn't move the needle like this. Strickland brings a level of promotional value that is essentially a goldmine for the company, even if it comes with the risk of property damage and legal headaches. The higher-ups knew that by booking this fight, they were essentially lighting a fuse on a powder keg and hoping the explosion happened inside the octagon. Ariel Helwani has noted that Chimaev is coming into this specific fight more motivated than we have ever seen him before. The personal insults from Strickland, including the use of highly sensitive labels and constant mocking of his background, have turned this into a personal vendetta. Khamzat doesn't just want to win, he wants to make a statement that leaves his opponent unrecognizable. This isn't just about a belt or a ranking anymore, it's about reclaiming his honor after months of verbal abuse on social media. Helwani suggests that the UFC might actually be nervous about how far Chimaev is willing to go to get his revenge, especially after the latest reports of them needing to be physically restrained. From a technical standpoint, the matchup is a nightmare for oddsmakers to figure out. On On one hand, you have the world-class grappling of the completely undefeated Chimaev, a man who has overwhelmed almost everyone he's ever faced. On the other hand, you have the unorthodox, upright defensive style of Sean Strickland. Kamaru Usman has pointed out that Strickland is incredibly difficult to hit cleanly because he relaxes his hands and leans away at angles that most fighters don't understand. If Khamzat can't land that initial big shot or secure a quick submission, he might find himself in deep water against a man who never gets tired and never stops talking trash while he's jabbing your face off.